And we're back at TD Garden for another edition of the Garden Report. My name is Josue Pavone. I'm joined by Jacob Toby. Jacob,
what's going on,
first
man?
time on camera with you.
Is it?
Welcome aboard again.
What's going on?
From me personally.
All right, cool.
What a game tonight, right? The Boston Celtics now make it 5 straight with this big win against the Spurs. 108-94. Now, of course, this was a depleted team from the San Antonio side, but is that something that we should take away from the Celtics? Because they did play in a tremendous game tonight, right?
Yeah, I think you should take away that they were missing maybe the top 5 player in Kawhi Leonard. They're also missing Tony Parker, who's a veteran in this league, who knows how to get it done night in and night out. He may be a tad bit older, but still he can get it done. They're missing Manu Ginobili as well, resting on a second night of a back-to-back. And Coach Brad Stevens mentioned it in the press conference post-game that they were missing Kawhi Leonard, who's, again, a top 5 player. But he also said that the Celtics did some really good things tonight, especially on the defensive side, and they played a generally really good game. I think Al Horford was really special, and Kyrie Irving is always special, and it was just a really good team effort from the starting lineup to the bench.
You know, one thing that certainly stood out tonight is certainly the defense. I mean, that's something that's certainly been the key in these 5-game winning streak. Now, of course, Brad Stevens talked about how good this team has been on the rebounding side of things. Plus 14 against the San Antonio Spurs. Why have they been so successful this year in rebounding?
Yeah.
It's a statistical category that, let's face it, has been a big problem for the Celtics throughout the past, I don't know, decade.
No, it's crazy. I don't think the NBA thought that the Celtics would be decent at rebounding this year, but they have been. I think Aaron Baines is a big part of that. He's a guy that can bang in the middle. He had 5 rebounds tonight. Al Horford's really stepped up his game in the rebounding side. And one guy that I think that's really stepped up as well is Terry Rozier off the bench rebounding. I think in the game 1 in the opener, he led the team in rebounding off the bench. So he is a guy that can come in as a guard and rebound. I think the guards in general have just done a nice job of rebounding. And Marcus Smart has been a guy that can always get in there and have 4 or 5 rebounds. So overall, the Celtics are hanging in there, and that's all they need to do. They don't need to necessarily win the rebounds every night, but they need to just stick in there and let the offense take care of itself.
Speaking of the second unit, of course, Terry Rozier was in that bunch, that fourth quarter where things really got out of hand for the San Antonio Spurs. Talk about how Brad Stevens is relying on these young guys in a fourth quarter situation against a team like the San Antonio Spurs, and of course they came through for their coach in a double-digit win tonight.
Yeah, I mean, with 8 minutes left to go, the Celtics had 5 players on the court who averaged 22 years of age, rather, and Daniel Tice was the oldest player out there, rather, and he's 25. Right. So Brad Stevens is trusting this young group of guys. He has total faith in them, and he has to. I mean, with Gordon Hayward going down, guys need to step up, and he's putting that trust in early on in the season, which I think will pay dividends later on in the season and into the playoffs.
And, of course, the Celtics also had double digits in blocks. I mean, defensively, they just looked like a defensive juggernaut early in the season. Of course, a season that's played without Gordon Hayward. They're certainly starting to find their chemistry. What can we look forward to see if the Celtics can sustain this type of success moving forward? What do you think they need to keep doing?
Well, they need to keep banging the boards, and the defense will take care of itself as well. But like I said, Aaron Baines to me is really important to this team. Greg Popovich actually talked about him in the pregame, and he said he's such a nice guy. He actually made fun of his hair, which was really funny.
That's the first thing that I was going to say. That was actually the first thing he brought up, but then of course he got more into the serious talk of what he's actually been doing for this basketball team.
He brings a lot to the table, and it's not necessarily going to come out of the stat sheet. And he actually compared him to Dave Cowens. A lesser version of Dave Cowens.
Compliment. Of course, he said that he's not in that same league.
No,
but the effort and what he's able to contribute down low, the physicality, it's all the same when it comes to those two, right?
So the role players need to take care of business off the bench, and I think the Celtics can continue into Wednesday's game versus Sacramento, who have some really good young players, but the Celtics I think have a tad bit more talent on their roster.
And we will be here, of course, Wednesday night for another edition of the Garden Report from TD Garden. That's going to do it for us here. Make sure you head over to greats.com and use the promo code Celtics Roundtable, where you can get yourself a 15% discount. That's Celtics Roundtable. Get yourself hooked up with some nice-looking kicks at greats.com. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Garden Report. My name is Josue Pavone. He is Jacob Toby. This has been the Garden Report.